propose a fix-it-first program to put people to work as soon as possible on our most urgent repairs. And I'm announcing the launch of 3 more of these manufacturing hubs, where businesses will partner with the Department of Defense and Energy to turn regions left behind by globalization into global centers of high-tech jobs. But for the sake of our children and our future, we must do more to combat climate change. Let's declare that in the wealthiest nation on earth, no one who works full-time should have to live in poverty, and raise the federal minimum wage to $9 an hour. Nothing I'm proposing tonight should increase our deficit by a single dime. We will not pay for health insurance reform by adding to our deficits. I will not sign a bill that adds a dime to our deficits, either now or in the future.
I will not sign a plan that adds 1 dime to our deficit.
And the only way we can do it, we will not add 1 dime to our deficit.
If Washington starts taking responsibility for every dime that it's spent,
so that it doesn't add a dime to our deficit.
Occasionally we take these questions from Twitter, and we had a question from @LisaLucy5111, and she asked this, Charles, and I'll put it to you. Will POTUS, President of the United States, message last night resonate with the average American? Will they understand the wish list requires spending?
Well, I don't think it's going to resonate. I think if the inaugural address was a philosophical ode to a hyperactive leftist government, the State of the Union was a programmatic expression of exactly that. I mean, is there a human or social problem that the State of the Union address did not say could be cured with a program run out of Washington? I mean, this was you say it was a poverty of ideas. I think it was a throwback to mid-20th century liberalism. This is a pre-Clintonian tax and spend. We have a program for every human ill, and the reason it won't increase the deficit is because we will tax accordingly. I mean, it is true in a way that Obamacare isn't adding to the deficit. The reason is it's going to cost $1.3 trillion according to the CBO over 10 years, but he's going to increase taxes by a little bit more. So yes, it'll actually decrease the deficit. It used to be called tax and spend liberalism, but after losing time and time again in the 80s and early 90s to Republicans, Democrats have decided to change the language. You don't tax anymore, it's all revenues, and you never spend, you only invest. And this is the Obama message, and I think there was one of the major papers today had this interpretation of last night's address saying that it signaled we're moving away from austerity into an era of balance, as if Obama has ever been the herald of austerity. As we saw in the ad, he's run up our deficits by almost $6 trillion, the largest in American history. So we have had the spigots open, the Federal Reserve and the Treasury still stuck in the worst recovery, and now he's shifting into more spending. I think it's utterly ruinous.
Administration will keep cutting red tape and speeding up new oil and gas permits. That's got to be part of an all-of-the-above plan.
Over the past 4 years, the leases and permits on federal lands, United States onshore, have gone down over 30%. The major increases in oil and natural gas in the United States over the past 4 years have been on private land.
Is the president selling it? Is he getting across that message? And is he winning on this issue?
I think he's losing on this issue. The Keystone Pipeline, there's not a single rational argument against it. The only argument is that it's not really, it's rather dirty oil in Alberta, and if you don't build the pipeline, it'll stay in the ground, which of course is ridiculous. The Canadians have announced, they have said openly, if it doesn't head south, it's going to head west. The Chinese are hungry for all that energy. Canada's not going to leave it in the ground, so it's not going to have any effect on the climate. And so there is nothing left here against the symbolism. And the fact that Obama, after he delayed this until after an election for obviously political reasons, securing his base, after he wins election, he doesn't say anything about it. And I found it shocking in the State of the Union address, leaving it out there hanging. And he has the vision of this green universe which is going to happen in 100 years. In the meantime, we are going to suffer. He pretended in the State of the Union address yesterday that somehow by going into green energy, we're going to reduce our cost for energy, which is precisely the opposite. The reason that he has to give all these subsidies is because wind and solar and all the other stuff and algae is not self-supporting. It is much more expensive. And if you force it on the consumer, you raise rates. You make life increasingly expensive. So I think it's a complete contradiction against reality, and ultimately reality wins.
Because I think in terms of his legacy, he is moving towards the idea that America has to be in competition, he said this last night, with the Chinese, the Germans, the Brazilians, who are in the alternative energy field. And if we get left behind, those jobs won't be coming to the United States. And if you continue to invest in the traditional coal-based, oil-based sources of energy, you're not moving the ball forward.
China is waiting to swallow the oil that Obama is denying the United States.
This has been a Sunfish production.